Well, good morning all. This is Patricia, and I am traveling for history. In today's show, I'm going to talk about experiences and even better filming opportunities at Greenwood Cemetery in St. Albans, Vermont. Greenwood Cemetery is directly on Route 7, which is the main north-south corridor in Vermont, and which is known as Main Street in St. Albans. And if you're driving north, it's on the east side of the road, so the right side of the road. I think it's pretty easy to see because the oldest part of the cemetery is to the front, and those first headstones are 10 feet, we'll say 15 feet from the sidewalk, so it's pretty close. You should be able to see it. And so this cemetery, first burials were in 1802, and it became a cemetery in 1803. So I found Revolutionary War and War of 1812 soldiers there. One person I had known about thanks to findagrave.com. Now, what I thought interesting about Find a Grave is usually when I'm looking at a list of people, it's notable is the word used for them, but no, famous on Find a Grave, and maybe famous, maybe known in their day. We're talking senators and congressmen, other high-level state employees like the Vermont State Auditor, a couple of justices on the Vermont Supreme Court, including one who was the Chief Justice of the Vermont Supreme Court. Whole list of men. I think it was 10 people total, 9 were men. There was one woman on there. I'll come back to her in just a moment. But there was one man on that list I thought was particularly extraordinary. One of only 3 buried in the state of Vermont. And this was a man who had participated in the Boston Tea Party. Now, let's talk about that experience trying to find his grave. It's a tall, gray, rectangular headstone. And I knew the description of, I had seen a picture of that. I knew it had this brass marker stuck in the ground in front of it, and there was another marker to its right that had a date on it. So it also had this, next to it, also a light gray rectangular headstone, but it was askew. I have to say, I was sitting on a tree trunk in a whole bunch of light gray rectangular headstones. So what I was looking for really was the one that was crooked next to one. So I'm sitting there and surveying what I'm looking at and thinking, well, okay, all right. Lots of tall, square, rectangular ones that were staying straight up. But then I noticed one to my left that had the pair that I was looking for. Now, I was looking at the back of these headstones, and therefore I couldn't possibly have seen if it had the brass marker. But I thought, well, I could go and take a look-see. I want you to understand it was a hot and humid day, and the only thing that saved it that day was the beautiful breeze. That was the only thing that made it breathable that day. But I had already been filming for a few hours by the time I filmed. I was hoping to film that one. So I looked over to my right, and sure enough, I saw the same kind of pair of headstones. And then I noticed that there was a brass marker in front of this the taller one, and next to it was another one that I couldn't quite make out. But I thought it could be the correct marker because it's been my experience when I'm in cemeteries that these Revolutionary War soldiers have a 5-point star, and the arms of the star are fairly narrow, like this right here. That's what I was looking for, that right there. And the American Civil War ones tend to be a bit fatter. And I thought from my distance, I thought that one looked pretty similar to what I'm used to seeing. And sure enough, boom, there he was. So that video has not yet gone up. As of the filming this show, that video has not gone live yet on my channel, but you'll see it soon enough. It was a real treat to find him. Most of my wanderings in cemeteries, when I'm trying to find someone, it's just outlandishly challenging. No, let me challenging is the word I prefer, between challenging and difficult. If it's difficult, it's just bleh. If it's challenging, who doesn't like to rise to a challenge? But I will say, trying to find some people in cemeteries, man, yeehaw, not fun. So this is the initial sign you'll see when you head into Greenwood Cemetery. It's the one that meets you. There's only that one entrance right there. It's eminently drivable and walkable. Apparently, from start to finish on that driveway, it's 1 mile. There was a lot of groundspeople there that day. Lots of people working on headstones and preparing for burial and all that. What was interesting, it doesn't say it on that sign, it says it on one far into the interior there, that police regularly patrol after hours. In fact, there was one area that I don't have a photo of it for you today, but that said private property. There were actually headstones in the area where it said private property. A roadway that led there. And I caught up with a groundsman and asked about that. I said, is it private property? Am I not allowed to film down there? And he said, no, actually on the other side of that, it's private property. They were having an issue with people with their tents in there, so they posted private property. But anyway, just know if you visit Greenwood Cemetery, you can actually visit that section that is posted private property. There are about 5,500 people buried there. If you look at Find a Grave, they say 5,000, but what really hit me upside the head is how surprising it was to me is that a cemetery that opened officially in 1803 still has burials. That's this front part. I stayed in the front part, which is the oldest part. It's still set up as a rural cemetery, which means that the headstones are lined up one after another in a straight line. Well, sort of straight. So, although there are trees, lots of old trees there. I don't have any pictures of the trees themselves for you, or the stumps I was sitting on. These things are huge. I love trees as much as anyone, but I have to say, in a cemetery, it's a really terrible idea. The roots uproot the headstones, mangle them, knock them down, all that stuff. So filming opportunities, besides the obvious filming of headstones and the people buried there and all that stuff, but you saw a photograph of equipment. It was a dump truck with this flatbed and an excavator on the back. I always want to call those things diggers because they dig, but it is called an excavator. I've been corrected a lot in the comments over that. So I got to film excavators moving and working, including something I had never seen before in my life, that they were working on the men were working on a headstone that had face planted, just right down off its base. This particular one had 2 iron rods from the base into the bottom of the headstone. Rust kills iron, and any sort of gap will cause water to get in and iron to rust. And they will snap over time. So that is my supposition, is that's what's happened, because when they were working on it, the rods were, well, there was no rod standing up in there. So so they actually had they tied a rope around the top of the headstone and then lifted it up with the excavator. It was so neat. You can watch that video now on my channel, travelingforhistory.com, Traveling for History, of course, on YouTube. But that was amazing. I have to say, I'm surprised I wasn't giggling. I'm surprised that wasn't captured. I try hard to keep that stuff out of my videos, but that was really, really amazing to watch, which I got to film as well. I also captured another Kubota tractor with a front end loader. I think I have like 4 videos now on my channel, soon to be 5. With that one, I was giddy when I saw that. Oh my gosh, look at that thing, another one. Also on my travels in that cemetery, when I was talking, let's talk about this. I thought this was very interesting. So this is in the old section up front. I want to say it was the Brainerd family, a well-known St. Albans family. Senators, at least one senator, and maybe a governor as well. But so this is the what's going to be the base, because the portion you see that's lighter than the concrete in the center is the wood to hold the cement in place. They had just poured it. They were pouring it that day. I didn't film that. I didn't realize that was going on when I was filming something else. So with this old family, much older than this person dying here, who's died for this, but a new headstone. Someone new was being buried in the same plot. And when I was talking to the guy who had just finished troweling that thing, I was asking about it because I had never seen anything like that before, and I am abundantly curious. He said that whoever was, he said his boss or someone higher up was a little nervous about having a new burial in an old plot. But, you know, I thought that was really cool that a descendant wanted to be buried with his ancestors, his or her ancestors. I think it was a man. Want to be buried with ancestors. I mean, how fabulous is that? I think that's amazing. So I kind of want to go back to see what that's going to look like, to film the newest member of the family buried in there. I want to say there's 4. Let's see, what the center headstone. I filmed so many things that day, but it was not a gated community. I go when I visit cemeteries. Oh yeah. So when I was asking the crew who were taking care of the headstone that had face planted, the guy asked me, the guy who's in charge of that little group had asked me if I had seen the dome yet. The dome? What's the dome? And then you can see this actually when you're in the cemetery. You can't see it from the road. And that is the dome. So the people buried there are members of the Smith and Brainerd families. In fact, those headstones nearby are also the same family. So looking at it from this angle, the base on the left is J. Gregory Smith. He was governor of Vermont during the American Civil War. John Gregory Smith. And the base that's closest to us, that we can't see because of the way I took this photo, is his wife, Anne Eliza Brainerd Smith, who's intertwined with St. Albans history. On the day of the St. Albans raid in October 1864, Confederates had infiltrated St. Albans. They robbed multiple banks. They burned buildings down. they shot 2 men, one of whom died. There was a great deal of concern that the Confederates were going to go to the governor's house to burn it down, because the Union Army had done that to not just one Southern governor's home, but to 2. The governor himself, the Vermont governor himself, was in Montpelier because the legislature was in session. His wife, Anne, who was known as an author, she had written essays, poems, novels. She was known for 3 of her novels, Ceola, Selma, and Atla. You should read what one critic had to say about her. You could just tell from the first sentence he did not like her. But she was known for those things. She was known for a variety of things. It's in the governor's wife. She was at home. She scoured the house looking for a weapon. She finally found a pistol. She went out to the front porch and waited for the Confederates to arrive, which they did. And she was able to persuade them to move on, pistol in hand. And that pistol was unloaded. That's not all she did that day, though. She rallied the townsfolk to go to the Canadian border to stop the Confederates from crossing. She was honored years later with a rank of brevet lieutenant colonel. A brevet rank is, well, brevet means brief in Latin. It's the last rank an officer at least, would receive before mustering out of the, in this case, well, the Army, we'll say the Army, the military in general. It didn't, it was only in title, so there's no extra pay, no extra duties. It's just the last thing you get before you muster out. So she was given this honorary title. I mean, a woman received this kind of honorary title, honorary rank. I find that absolutely extraordinary. But for her bravery that day, can you imagine holding a pistol that you know is unloaded? I think it's amazing. What's neat, though, is that there are actually photographs of her online. I don't have any with me today, but Anne Eliza Brainerd Smith, four names, and what's Brainerd spelled with an E? Brain, E-R-D. Anyway, she looked like a woman you didn't want to mess with, quite frankly. She had a lot of kids, 8, 9, egads. But a woman who got things done, clearly. But movers and shakers are definitely buried at Greenwood Cemetery in St. Albans, Vermont. If you have some time, now I was there from before 8 a.m. and I didn't leave until about 2:30 in the afternoon, so I did film a whole bunch of interesting things in there. So I hope you'll tune in to my variety. Right now, the headstone lifting is on. My initial walk of the cemetery, which is 45 minutes, is on there. This one has not gone up yet, but the Boston Tea Party. But there's so much more to cover there. The newer graves are in the way back, which I did not visit. And it's just a remarkable place to be. It was not quiet that day. It was busy with a lot of machines. There was a oh, I can't remember the name of the company. Something Monuments. Champlain? I'm not sure. Something Monuments that was there. They had a flatbed truck with a cement mixer attachment on the back. Did I film that? Yes. Yes, I did. It was a filming opportunity. All my experiences with the humans I encountered were absolutely fabulous. The different crew members, I talked to different people, because I was interested in what they were doing. And it was an absolute beehive. I want to say I was there on a Wednesday, whatever day June 4 is. I want to say it was a Wednesday. Anyway, you can see all those wonderful monuments. They're on closer on the left side than the right. The right is the older of those two sides as you're looking at it. The road is mainly paved, but you can see on the left that it actually goes to like a dirt with some gravel on it, like pebbly gravel. And then there was a building. As you're about to enter the cemetery, on the left is a nondescript brick building, which looks like it's a vault, based on the fact that there's a brass sign on the side of it with 3 people's names on it. And apparently they had the structure built, so it seems like it's a vault to me. And if you blink, you miss it, really. I mean, I was walking there. Yeah. But if you can go, why not? They're quiet places typically. The day I was there was absolutely gorgeous. Lots of interesting folks buried there. And the building that's back there to the right, I would believe, I think because that's where all the cars were parked, I'm betting that that's where the lawnmowers and other equipment is kept. I didn't get that far there. As I said, I was walking the whole place. So stunningly enough, I walked 3 miles that day, almost all in the cemetery. So pretty wild. But it's a beautiful place. And except for the sound of the machines, including a lawnmower, it was more of a landscaper lawnmower, but not crazy big landscaper lawnmower. But it's worth the visit. I don't know if it's the oldest in St. Albans, but it sure seems like it should be at 1802, first burials. But anyway, I wanted to share with you my experiences at Greenwood. The guys, they were all men. All the guys I spoke to were interested in telling me what they were doing. They were fine with being videotaped and all that stuff. Certainly their work videotaped. And who doesn't love to see interesting stuff like that? And then, of course, I don't think the dead care. But what I will say about when I was trying to tell that story that I shared with you about Anne, that was 7 tries. I think it was 7 tries before I felt like it was right. It was. I don't know. I don't know why sometimes it takes a lot of takes and sometimes it doesn't. I had filmed a gated community there. I just love when cemeteries have these areas, these family plots that have a metal fence around them. There could just be a low bar. The one I had filmed just had a low bar, but it also had this chain that looked like the kind of rope you see tying off a, what's it called? A drape. And the tassel was solid iron, I'm guessing. It was rusted, but it was heavy. I think it was a solid piece of iron. Anyway, I just thought, I didn't even film the headstones. I just filmed this gated community because I thought it was really cool. But appreciate your being here today and hanging out with me as I talked about Greenwood Cemetery, located in St. Albans, Vermont. I do recommend you go visit. Oh, one thing I have to warn you about, though. The ground is terrible to walk, really terrible. Second worst I've ever walked, which is saying something. The worst, in case you're curious, is in Montpelier. I think that's St. Mary's Cemetery. Scary. I thought I was going to snap an ankle. This one, I didn't think I was going to snap an ankle, but I was really concerned I was going to fall. And but terrible, terrible, terrible ground. And I don't think they can really do anything about that without regrading it. And who's going to do that? It's a cemetery. But really, if you're going to walk on the on the grass. Be mindful as you're going up the hill. Well, actually, it didn't even matter if it's flat. It's just terrible ground to walk on, very uneven, and you're going to be careful of falling, because what are you going to hit? You're going to hit a headstone. That's what you're going to hit, or one of those markers that has sharp things off of them. So there's no good scenario of falling in a graveyard. At least it's on the main drag, and someone may see you, or not. Anyhow. All right, well, this is Patricia. I'm traveling for history. Really enjoyed telling you about these things I did and saw and experienced at Greenwood Cemetery in St. Albans, Vermont. And until I see you again, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.